Welcome to your Conscious Choices for Wellness podcast, hosted by B. Crutelli. This is a space for everyone to learn anything and everything related to healthy healing, including naturopathic medicine, music, dance, yoga, meditation, eco-fashion, mothering, and organic lifestyle choices. Topics for expanding universal consciousness. Come join me weekly as we delve in and begin this journey, sharing valuable content gathered over the past 3 decades, helping to support a healthier and more sustainable future for all. Hello and welcome, everybody. Today, I am going to be talking about fast fashion pollution. This is a topic, as I researched, has been out there for some time now. I'm so grateful for the community of people that care and that are getting information out there to y'all. I also wanted to do this. Clothing is one of the most foundational forms of self-expression, in my opinion. No matter where someone lives, given the choice, they have a preference of what they want to wear. It's not just about looking good or attracting attention. It's about reflecting how we feel inside. We all know that frustrating feeling of being unable to decide what to wear or not feeling good about what we're wearing that day. We have an innate need to feel comfortable in whatever skin we wear, even our own bare body. We want to feel comfortable in, right? Like if we're looking at ourselves in the mirror, or if we're out in public, say at a retreat where maybe there's a hot spring and people are, at the river, are going without their clothes. We want to feel comfortable in our own skin that we wear. So it is, without words, it's a feeling that can either be unsettling, like being misunderstood before we've even left the house, or can be a feeling that brings confidence and even joy. Think about being forced to wear a uniform that you hate. Almost everyone can relate to the discomfort of wearing something that doesn't align with their identity. Even toddlers can express clothing preferences. I remember my own daughter, my younger daughter, when she was only about 3 years old, maybe, suddenly not wanting me to dress her anymore. And I thought I was dressing her in the cutest clothes. And all of a sudden one day she was like, no, she wanted to pick out what she wanted to wear. And she had already found what she wanted from that day forward to be dressed in. So I had to just let her do it, as much as it was hard for me probably at times, being like, well, don't you want to wear this? Or maybe you need to maybe wear this. Or, I was even concerned because, most moms with kids that age, they're dressing them, and then you feel like almost like it's like what you're wearing, because you go out and it's like, if your kid's wearing something totally absurd, it kind of is like a reflection on the parent. So in today's world, fast fashion giants, like, I'm going to name a few: Zara, Shein, H&M, and Forever 21, try to dominate the market with a hidden cost that they also make sure is not publicized, and that mainstream media does not tell you about. So that means the majority of people are unaware of what is truly happening. They're just like blindsided by this almost like it's like a psychology that's been put on our culture of media and advertising and it's sickening, it's maddening. It's not just fashion, it goes into other industries as well. Even do some research yourself. I'll put some links in the show notes of some great websites where you can learn more. Consumers don't see what's really happening, and the fashion industry will do everything in its power to hide what they are contributing to. It's really quite disturbing, and the awareness is essential to change this mass misconception. The environmental toll of fast fashion. Fast fashion caters to consumers' demand for affordable, trendy clothing, but the environmental consequences are staggering. The fast fashion model thrives on rapid production and consumption cycles, encouraging consumers to buy new clothes frequently and dispose of them just as quickly. This throwaway culture results in an overwhelming amount of textile waste. Globally, an estimated 92 million tons of textiles end up in landfills every year. Okay? We don't have that much land. Okay? There's just not enough land in this world on the planet to be a dumping ground for textile waste. There's just not. According to the United Nations Environment Program, the UNEP, the fashion industry is the second largest consumer of water globally and accounts for approximately 10% of global carbon emissions, more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. Unfortunately, this has been overlooked by consumers. More awareness must happen, which is why organizations like Slow Fashion Movement are being created. Films like the Netflix documentary that just came out barely 2 weeks ago called Buy Now are being made, and why I'm creating content to push into the future. I have long been wanting to do this, and like some of you might know, I ran an eco fashion clothing store for men, women, and children many years ago that I sold, and it's still in business in a small town in California. And I have been passionate about this for a very long time. It's just a disgrace to see what's happening, and I am going to put actually can't really put a link to the Buy Now, or maybe I can, but if you have Netflix, or I'm sure there's another way to watch the film, it's a new film that's been made in the last few years that just came out. And so it's got, some of the latest information on there. Just going to say, give a big shout out to the Adidas president, who was on the documentary speaking about how he doesn't want to contribute anymore. And I think he actually is no longer, I think he stepped down as CEO of the company because he just didn't want to be part of what was happening. But he helped make changes within the company. And it goes beyond fashion, but it talks a lot about what's happening with the fashion industry. It also talks about electronics and food waste. And yeah, it's quite informing, and I would highly suggest watching it. A significant factor in this environmental crisis is the widespread use of synthetic fabrics such as nylon, polyester, acrylic, and spandex. These materials derived from petroleum-based chemicals are non-biodegradable and can persist in the environment for hundreds of years, just like plastic, okay? So we really should not be buying these fabrics. And I know there are companies that you think are sustainable, like Patagonia. And I do love Patagonia as a company. They are using a lot of recycled content. Prana does the same thing. I think Pact is doing some of that. But, I understand the use of some of these, fabrics, such as making fleece or workout, wear, but it's time to just recycle, and they can recycle these fabrics into, new fashion, new garments. They've got your worn wear program. So that's been around a long time, and that's great. So people can actually recycle their own garments through them. These materials are toxic. They're non-biodegradable, and they will persist for hundreds of years. Okay. Just like plastic. Just remember that. When discarded, the synthetic clothing contributes to overflowing landfills and the proliferation of microplastics in our ecosystems, which have devastating effects on wildlife and human health. On top of this, the facts are glowing. There is too much clothing on the planet. On this By Now documentary, there were people in other countries that are dumping grounds for, just like plastic is being dumped all over the planet, places that don't have much say and just need money, or desperate for money. So they're being paid to be dumping grounds. And it's really sad, and it's polluting our ocean as well. And there are, places that are speaking up and being like, look, this is not okay. I think it was like Kenya, or it was somewhere in Africa. And this woman was like, I think she made an organization to revolt against this happening in her community. She was like, stop dumping these textiles, in my community. It's like not okay. There's too much clothing on the planet. There's just way, way, way too much. And it's, probably worse than any other industry, really, of what's being manufactured out there. So this widespread waste of the fast fashion industry. I'll link the data in the show notes about this. It's very similar to plastic pollution that's happening out there. People really think that they're going to buy something plastic and then recycle it. It's like, okay, yeah, I can buy as much clothing as I want, and then I just donate it to the thrift store, right? And it just gets recycled by somebody else. No. That's happening on a small scale, but it can't happen like you think it is happening, because there's just too much of it. There's way, 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 way more of it, than there are people on the planet. So, and we only need so many pieces of clothing, right? So the same thing is happening with the mass production of the clothing from the fast fashion brands. Thrift stores are burdened by too many donations, in which they have to just toss out a large percentage of this inventory that's coming in. They can't, even stock it all. It's just too much. The majority of discarded clothing isn't being recycled. Even donated clothes often end up in the landfills due to oversupply. Many developing countries where used clothing is exported are now struggling with waste management issues caused by the influx of unsold garments from wealthier nations like the US. This waste further strains the environment, taking up valuable land and polluting the air and the soil and the water and everything, okay? So let's look at the difference between synthetic versus natural fabrics. Synthetic fabrics are engineered through chemical processes to mimic natural fibers. While they offer benefits like stretching and durability in some cases, moisture resistance, their production relies heavily on non-renewable fossil fuels. In contrast, natural fibers such as cotton, wool, and hemp are biodegradable and have a lower environmental footprint. Their production requires careful management to avoid excessive water use or pesticide pollution. I do want to say, though, that organic is much better if you're thinking cotton as a natural fabric. Cotton really should be organic, or it should be of the highest quality and standard, because cotton uses a ton of water. And conventional cotton, if it's not organic, is using a ton of pesticides. So it's contributing to that pollution in that way. So, however, the problem with synthetic fabrics goes beyond their production. Every time we wash synthetic clothes, the tiny microfibers are released into the waterways, contributing to the growing crisis of microplastic pollution. These microplastics infiltrate our oceans, rivers, and drinking water, and even now in the air that we breathe, posing a threat to marine life and has made way into the human food chain. More of this you can listen about on my podcast on microplastic pollution. So, what is the human cost? Exploitation of garment workers. This is one of the main human costs, but I could go into more. So while fast fashion harms the environment, it's also paying a price with humans that is equally alarming. The people making this garbage, okay? I'm calling this fast fashion. It's just waste. The industry relies heavily on cheap labor from developing countries where millions of garment workers, predominantly women and sometimes children, work in unsafe and exploitative conditions, experiencing physical and emotional abuse. Countries like Bangladesh and India have textile factories that are linked to deforestation, water pollution, and soil contamination. The communities living near these factories bear the brunt of both environmental and social harm. These areas often lack the resources to mitigate the damage, further perpetuating a cycle of poverty and environmental destruction. Okay, so it's also by buying these garments from these companies, you're contributing to this. Low wages and poverty. These garment workers in countries like Bangladesh, India, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and there's others, often earn wages far below a living standard. Okay, they're not getting even a living wage. Okay, many are paid as little as $2 to $5 a day, barely enough to cover their basic needs for food, shelter, and healthcare. Despite working long hours, these workers remain trapped in a cycle of poverty, unable to improve their living conditions. These workers do not receive a fair wage and endure inadequate working conditions. Working conditions are also unsafe, notorious for poor working conditions, including overcrowded facilities, inadequate ventilation, a lack of proper safety protocols. One of the most devastating examples is the Rana Plaza factory collapse in 2013, which killed over 1,100 workers in Bangladesh. This tragedy highlighted the extreme risks that garment workers face daily, often with no legal protections or recourse. Yeah, I remember when that happened, and it was so sad. It was just like nobody cared, you know? It's just like another type of like war on the people. And I don't know, I'd like to look into that more, but it's sickening. Excessive working hours and exploitation. So These garment workers endure excessive working hours, often 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week with no overtime pay. They face constant pressure to meet unrealistic production targets, leading to physical and mental exhaustion. Child labor is also a persistent issue in some regions where children are forced to work to help their families. Okay, so that's a lot of the sad stuff. Now, the good news is that there's always an alternative. So let's enter into the slow fashion movement. In response to the environmental and ethical challenges of the fast fashion, the slow fashion movement has emerged as a powerful alternative. There's always alternatives, y'all. This movement aims to transform the fashion industry by slowing down consumption and production, encouraging consumers to buy fewer, higher quality garments, and discouraging the rapid turnover of trends that define fast fashion. Making better, long-lasting clothes. Prioritizing durability, craftsmanship, and timeless design over disposable fashion. Ensuring fair treatment of garment workers, advocating for safe working conditions, fair wages, and ethical labor practices in the global supply chain. Building a politically active community, providing a global platform where individuals, activists, and organizations can collaborate to educate and advocate for systemic change in the fashion industry. The slow fashion movement not only addresses environmental concerns, but also highlights the social injustices faced by workers in the garment industry. By fostering a culture of sustainability, transparency, and responsibility, it offers a holistic approach to redefining fashion. So, what can we do to help? Well, we can join the slow fashion movement. We can read the links below to, educate ourselves and feel, comfortable in our own skin. If we are someone that maybe has contributed to this other type of movement that's been destructive, we can make change. So as consumers, we hold immense power to reduce the environmental impact of the fashion industry and support the slow fashion movement. And so here are some of the ways that we can make a difference. Choose quality over quantity. Invest in well-made, timeless pieces that last longer rather than frequently buying cheap, trendy clothing. We don't need to be buying, cheap clothing every couple of months that then, it's like this vicious cycle. And then we just want to keep tossing it. And then, I totally get it. I really do. I've kind of been in some of that mentality. I own it. I love clothes. And I'm glad that I, have kind of upped my awareness a little bit the last couple of weeks. And, I am always learning. I knew some of the things that I learned in doing this podcast, but I learned a few new things too. And I love to see the growing, slow fashion movement. There's also like a slow food movement. There's fast food, there's slow food. Slow food movement is healthier. It's whole food. It's, it's made with love and, it's intentional and it's better for you, right? So fashion, same thing. So supporting sustainable and ethical brands. Look for brands that prioritize sustainability, fair wages, and safe working conditions for their employees. Embrace slow fashion principles. Adopt a mindset of mindful consumption by buying less and valuing the quality and longevity of your clothing. Opt for natural and sustainable fabrics. Whenever possible, choose natural fibers such as organically grown cotton, wool, and hemp, are biodegradable and have a lower environmental footprint. Their production requires careful management to avoid excessive water use or pesticide pollution. Fibers like tencel, made from eucalyptus, modal from beechwood, and bamboo, may sound sustainable, and they are, as long as the wood is sustainably harvested and the processing of these fibers are using a closed loop cycle, meaning that the chemicals used to break down the fibrous wood pulp are recycled again and again without being dumped into the watershed. Tencel definitely gets more credit from this practice than many bamboo companies out there. According to this Soport guide on modal, it is up to individual manufacturers to follow the manufacturing processes that will result in environmentally friendly fabrics. Conventional cotton uses massive amounts of pesticides, making cotton that is not certified organic the second largest ag polluter. Conventional cotton is the world's dirtiest crop, using more chemical pesticides than any other major crop. So I don't advocate just cotton as being sustainable. If it's like recycled cotton or something, or if it's, got some other kind of OCO, TEX, GOTS certification, where it's been managed better as a crop, then it's better. But just cotton, it's just really not that sustainable. Cotton accounts for just 2.4% of the world's cultivated land, uses 6% of the world's pesticides, and 16% of its insecticides. The addiction to toxic chemicals leaves a trail of death and destruction in its wake. This is especially acute in India, the world's leading producer of cotton. Every year, a large number of India's 5.8 million cotton farmers are poisoned by their exposure to pesticides. Many have died, while many more continue to suffer with chronic illnesses. So I'm putting a link about this if you want to read more. The World Wildlife Fund works to promote sustainable production, reduce damage to freshwater systems, and encourage the use of advanced irrigation technology and more ecologically sound growing methods for cotton. WWF is working with farmers, government agencies, buyers, and investors at key stages of the market chain, from the field to the clothes shop, in a joint effort to promote more ecologically and ethically sound cotton. It's just awesome. I love them. I've, used to donate to them a lot back in the day, and that was really awesome to read what they're doing with that. So yes, those are, that's kind of my little tidbit about some alternative fabrics. I'm not going to go into huge detail about my love for hemp, but hemp is probably my favorite fabric. And, sustainably made wool, if it's ethically produced in small amounts is, really great to have to keep warm, because I have lived in some cold climates and I need to have my wool. Avoiding synthetic fabrics, remembering that they contribute to the microplastic pollution crisis. Wash smarter. Reduce the frequency of washing synthetic clothes if you have them, and use a microfiber filter or bag to capture the plastic fibers. Participate in clothing swaps and thrifting. Extend the life of garments by buying secondhand and exchanging clothes with friends and community members. Repair, repurpose, and recycle. Learn basic sewing skills to repair damaged clothing or repurpose old garments into new items, reducing the need to buy new. Advocate for change. Join or support organizations that promote ethical and sustainable fashion practices and use your voice to demand transparency and accountability from fashion brands. By making conscious choices and supporting the slow fashion movement, we can shift the industry toward a more sustainable and ethical future. Fashion should be a celebration of individuality and creativity, not a contributor to environmental destruction and social inequality. Together, we can redefine what it means to be stylish while protecting the planet and our future generations. Life. Thank you all for listening. Please help support this podcast and future episodes, coming each week. I did take last week off. I was going to try to put this out last week on Black Friday, but it was a holiday and my partner was with me and we went to the hot springs instead. And we did not buy anything that day. We did not shop online or go shopping for Black Friday. And I am instead putting this out this week. And I have another podcast coming next week, probably in about a week or so, that I'll be doing with my lovely older daughter who is on her way to South America in a few weeks. She's going to go down there for about 6 to 12 months with her partner. And we're going to be talking about some kind of environmental topic. I'm not sure. We're going to go over it in a few days and hopefully record on Friday. And she is major. She has her master's in environmental sciences and policy. And so she knows a lot about what's going on out there. And we're going to talk about, I don't know what, but it'll be something environmental and helping the environment and spread awareness. So I wanted to get this out before that. And I love you all. Thank you for listening. Please give me a 5-star review and I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Bye. Thank you all so very much for listening today. I genuinely hope that you learned something, and I invite you to join me each week so you never miss a conscious wellness beat. This podcast holds a special place in my heart dedicated to my evolution here, my passionate mission to spread more consciousness for the much needed wellness on Earth. Come join me as a guest as well. Let's collaborate, making change for future generations.